Peace. What it do? Welcome back to the Rain Show. This is like our you say second to the last installment. And we're almost on to the next. And I think we decided that on to the next will probably be a death of expertise because we feel that's greatly needed in the community right now. But before we get into that, I just want to give a little shout out to the panel tonight. We got none other than Bobby Benga in the building. How about the people?
What's good, fam? What is that noise I'm hearing? Is I got my YouTube channel on or something?
No, that's the little background music to set the mood.
Oh man, you killing me. Anyway, man, appreciate y'all joining us tonight, man. What's going on? Marcus, how you doing, man? Brother Brass, man. What's up with y'all brothers, man?
Everything is all good over here. No more snow. We back to business. Man, we've been getting hit with snow like crazy, but we back to business. Brain Show back in. A lot of people have been asking. We're gonna finish up this book, Lisa Barrett, 7.5 Lessons in the Brain. And it's gonna be exciting. This is a good one about emotion that I think people can help them with their thoughts and emotions. What up, Marcus?
What up?
I like that shirt, G.
Oh, thank you. You know, matter of fact, all y'all can go get the merchandise at Ad You Wear. Go ahead and check it out. The link will be in the chat.
It's in the description box.
Oh, and it's in the description box. I am excited about the show. Glad to be back with the Brain Show. You know, hopefully everyone's enjoyed the journey that the pseudo killers went on with it. I learned a heck of a lot just going into the book myself. And I'm grateful that we had an opportunity for everybody just to maybe hopefully enjoy and learn something. So that's where I'm at with it.
Facts. Well, before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody to please like and share the show. I mean, share the show with at least 3 people you think that might be interested or, you know, might be important for them to watch. Make sure you subscribe to Pseudo Killers along with Community of Skeptics because we have some awesome shows we're going to be bringing to you, some more interview with experts or professionals in respective fields, and we don't want y'all to miss none of that. And if you haven't already checked out some of the interviews with experts that we've done or professionals, then please check those out. In particular, Rebecca Wayne was an awesome show on the Community of Skeptics. Andy Thompson, an awesome show. So remember, we already got a portfolio. You feel me? That's vast and pretty awesome. So just make sure y'all like, subscribe, share the show, and you know, without further ado, y'all mind a little background music to set the mood. We're gonna get right into it. And of course, this show was titled How Cultures Create Different Minds. So I'll let you go ahead and start it off, Marcus Chilimbwe. How cultures create different minds. What does that mean? Like, what did this chapter entail for you?
It just showed that maybe some of the assumptions that we make about what the human mind and brain do is really shaped by a Western culture, the culture we're in, and it may not be universal as much as we think it is. But it's actually a conversation that they have in now within the community and trying to expand that because culture plays such a major role in the development of how the brain actually functions, or at least put some caveats to what we assumed before, that they want to try to do more of a broader net in some of the experiments, and then looking at some things. This is where anthropologists get in it, where they go into these cultures and they analyze how these people live their lives. And she actually started the book off describing that. So one of the things we talk about is like the amygdala and the fear response that we have. We say that, you either fight or you flee. But there's a tribe. I'm let me just share my screen right quick. Hold on. So there's a tribe that she mentions
in Bali,
Indonesia, and in that tribe, instead of them doing what we would normally assume, right, which is you're going to either run or you fight. Instead, what they do is they actually go to sleep. And so here's the tribe right here, and the name what they call it is Takopotsums or something like that. Polis. I don't speak their language, which is
Polis or something like that.
Which translate into in fright sleep. So when they're frightened, this tribe of people actually, instead of fleeing, they actually go to sleep. And so that brings caveats to some of the assumptions that we may mean based on, in our culture, you're afraid, you either fight or flight.
Right.
In some cultures, that response to those same chemical responses may not necessarily show itself the same way. So that's one of the main things I got out of this chapter.
What I thought was interesting, though, in that when they sense fear or things like that, they go to sleep, and how they kind of connected that back to some of the evolutionary processes of organisms, like with some animals, how, their pulse will decrease or their breathing will decrease so they can become undetectable. And I thought that was kind of awesome, right? Like that connection or whatnot. Brass, what did you think about that? What's your take on that?
What I took from it is also that Western culture piece too. It's the, over, I would say over here, which is ignorant, but over in Western culture, our mind, we have features, right? There are thoughts and emotions. And what happens is, because we only know what we know, we are our brain, we think that they kind of run differently. Like your thoughts are one thing, your emotions are another thing. But when I saw what the Balinese people do when they get afraid, that just means that in other places, cognition and emotion are not really different.
Correct.
Like it's like a blend of almost the thinking. So we have a kind of a blend, but to them, it's almost like a single thing. And I love how she described it when she was saying like a Balinese kind of mind. And that's and I think another thing is, especially being in a Discord with people that are not from necessarily the United States, I realized that a lot of times they're very literal. And a lot of times we're trying to guess, like we're trying to guess what other people are thinking or guess what other people are feeling. And we think that that's normal. And then when they don't really try to read into what we're saying, they're just taking exactly what it is that we're saying. We look at that as crazy. So, it's crazy how, when you just realize that, your brain can literally make more than one mind. Literally what the title says, a particular brain in a particular body, but most importantly, raised and wired in a particular culture will produce a particular kind of mind. There's areas, like here in the East Coast, we spray for mosquitoes, and we're almost terrified of mosquitoes, because of the West Nile virus. In other areas, they catch them and turn them into pancakes and eat them. That's the only protein they have. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like It's just you just always need to be cognizant of other people. This book has shown me that you need to have empathy and understanding for other people. That's what I've gotten a lot from it. Out of all the technical stuff, you just have to understand that certain people have certain things. You're going to get a culture shock. You know, you've read about Egypt, you've heard about Egypt, but when you and Chill go to Egypt, that's going to be like mind blowing. You know what I mean? Because you're going to actually have to immerse, I guess, quote unquote, in their culture, which I don't know. I think it all would be amazing, and it all ties together.
I want to add something. So you actually read the quote the part from the source material about. I want to repeat it for the audience though, because I think that's important. That's the crux of what we're discussing here. That's what I take from it. A particular brain, this is what Brass just said, and this is from our source material. A particular brain in a particular human body, raised and wired in a particular culture or environment, in parentheses, will produce a particular kind of human mind. And the other piece to that is that there is not one human nature, but many. So everybody here on this panel has their own mind, distinct and unique to them, right? Because of our experiences are distinct and unique. Did anyone want to add? And then I was going to read the definition of cognition versus emotion, in case some people are a little confused on why it talks about the blending of the two, and then how our culture, the Western culture, separates the two, so we can understand.
Yeah. So one of the people she mentioned is the Himba tribe from Africa, and they're one of the groups that do not separate or try to predict what you mean, what you say. Like they don't believe in that. It just is what it is. So the example she gave is an excellent example about how that would work, right? So Western minds often try to guess what other people are thinking or feeling, right? We make mental inferences, basic valuable skills in our culture, and when we encounter people who are not good at it, we kind of like frown on them, right? Which is what Brass was talking about when you meet other cultures. But in some cultures, attempts to peer into another person's mind are considered unnecessary. One of those cultures is the Himba people of Namibia, often figure out each other by observing each other's behavior, not by necessarily inferring a mental life behind the behavior. So if in America you smile, you might say hello as a response, saying that person is trying to greet me. But that's not what they mean in a Himba's mind. And so that's very interesting. And the reason why that's interesting is because a lot of times when Americans talk, a lot of people from across the globe tend to think Americans are arrogant. But I think it's rather they're ignorant. They assume that the American mind that is developed in America is universal to everybody else, and we expect people to behave and respond based on that. And to some degree, America does influence global culture, like we did it with hip hop, R&B music, and other things like that. But that's not really how it works. And I think it's very important that we make that distinction. When we meet people from other cultures, there could be some us versus them that quickly develop, right? And we can semi-aggressive or passive-aggressive or uncomfortable about that. But instead, I think we should look at it as an opportunity to really see what other cultures can do with the human brain. And I think it's a beautiful example. So I gave you all, of course, QR code. You can look it up. It's just a wiki article about the Himba people. I think it's very important that we, just look into them. They're very fascinating people. If you look at the images, you can see that you've seen these images used all the time. Whenever people talk about black people and hair or whatever.
With the red ochre or whatever they use in their hair.
Exactly. These are some of the people that they use. So I just wanted to share that.
Bobby Banger, did you want to add?
Well, a lot of our discussions is based around nuance and understanding cultures and what they was thinking, what they was doing. And the job of an anthropologist is really to try to capture that. Early on in anthropologists, they was like Marcus is saying, they was placing their own ideas on those people, like the Mabuti tribe. And so anthropologists, they go and study the Mabuti tribe inside of the forest, and they was trying to figure out, well, where God at, right? And they was looking at them like, huh? It was basically saying, well, what do you mean, like, where is God? It was like the trees. They was like, what? The forest is our mother, is our father. They was like, what? They said, yeah, the forest give us everything. And they was trying to, match up their Christian ideals with what the Mabuti was saying, and was saying, well, y'all don't got no God. And they was like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't something they was even questioning, because they would have food and animals and all that to eat. And to them, it was like what a good mother and father would do. They say the force would never leave us. Would always make sure we would have that. So that's cultural understanding. Another thing is, this is my real issue, and I'm glad that I can actually say this without messing up the daggone show. In reality, right? When African Americans go back to studying ancient cultures and place their colonized mindset on the Nile Valley, it's ridiculous. It's what the early anthropologists was doing. So we talked about it before the show went live. We talked about what was the value of a farming community. You talked about it, Marcus. You talked about you about to get back to farming and giving to community, fresh fruits and vegetables is essential in these desert, what you call it, desert
food deserts,
which is real because we have a lot of fast foods in our community. The whole food markets, right, are outside of our communities for a lot of times. You got to be in like a mixed community to start to find those things, right? And so in the Nile Valley, they thing was based on they thing that got them to where they was actually functioning at top-notch levels. One of the items was the land that they had understood that was magical to them. The blackness of the soil was like, out of the blackness came light, came green things that they could eat, right? The things they could get surplus of. Once you feed the community, you got surplus, then you can actually feed everybody else. And so their thinking, their mentality wasn't concerned about the color of the skin. So watch this. What mentality would be concerned with the color of skin? Those who want to add value to or devalue would have that mindset of the skin. Yeah, that you're white, I'm black. And if you're white, you're godly and heavenly, right? You will have abundance. And if you're dark skinned, you're half human and you should be a slave. See the value placed on culture, see the thinking. And so for us to look back in that direction, right? Get into wild situations with each other based off of a mindset that didn't even exist in the ancient world is beyond the pale for me. But yeah, appreciate that one. But yeah, culture does form the way you think. Absolutely. And we can tell by studying ancient African civilizations, right? You can study certain European civilizations, not even Europeans, just Indo-European civilizations. All of them wasn't aggressive.
Correct.
But you would look at their deities, right? And you could tell which way they was moving. Just want to add that.
Another example is with the Series B. That's a prime example when it came to the Dogon. The Dogon, right? Exactly. That's a prime example. The guy came in with his own, and then applied it to those people and said, "Well, look what they did," and now we got a large amount of confusion. And a lot of anthropologists back in the day did that. And I like what Richard Carrier said. Hey, listen, that stuff from the early 1900s, let it go.
Yeah,
leave it alone, because the rigorous requirements of science today, they wasn't with that. And so, I know we love to go back in the day and use those things, but a lot of that stuff was based on this whole concept that Lisa Barrett brought out about how cognitions and minds develop in cultures, and how you can somehow or another assume that everyone had that same perception. And so we have plenty of examples of where this has happened. So yeah.
So from what I understand, because I took a few anthropology engaged classes in college, actually, especially dealing with the Maori culture, like that was one of the main ones. And So what I do know about ancient cultures, populations, people groups, their mindset, which you just talked about, Bobby Banger, was survival. Not much of anything else but survival. And everything around that was created around that was for survival. And like I always try to tell people, one thing I did remember from college was this definition of culture. Any and everything man superimposes on nature for survival and well-being. And for most part, those cultures were trying to survive. So anything that you see them created was for survival, or it was symbolic and it was for deification purposes for survival. You get what I'm saying? So we have to stop again trying to project and incorporate what we think and what we believe in this time era on ancient people groups, populations. Brass, did you want to add anything? And after you, I want to read the difference between cognition and emotion, so people can get a clear picture on why we're talking about the separation of, and then why some cultural groups, they're one and the same.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that, so to give us give the chat some context as to what we're actually discussing. I did want to mention one comment. Someone basically had said, "Why should we try to learn about other cultures?"
Oh wow!
And that's such a Western way of thinking, and that's exactly why we do these shows, right? That's exactly why we do these shows. We were just talking about something as simple, because we always look at cultures as some other culture in some other place, but even amongst ourselves, we all have a different culture, right? Correct. Remember the conversation we were having the other day about saying good morning,
right?
In some people's culture, in some people's state of mind, they don't care about that. But others, very important, how to look somebody in the eye, say hello to people when you greet them.
Great example.
Like right. So when you don't try to learn, a lot of those things can be perceived, and bad things can happen when you don't understand people's cultures, or when you try to flex your culture because you think you have the dominant culture because you're the Western culture. It's just, there's a reason why you understand. If you were to live in New York or the East Coast, like where we live at, you might walk down the street and run into 150 different all at the same time.
Right.
Some will look at you, some will smile, like even the Himba people, like Marcus. If you smile at us, we take it as whatever. You smile at the Himba, they just think of that as simply hello. That's it, and nothing more. So, but yeah, the difference between cognition and emotion would be important. So, yeah, I think we should get into that.
That's excellent examples. So definition, and yes, I'm using ChatGPT. Cognition refers to the mental processes involved in acquiring, understanding, and using knowledge. It includes activities such as perception, reasoning, memory, attention, language, problem solving, and decision making. Definition of emotion refers to a complex state of feeling that involves physiological arousal, expressive behaviors, and conscious experience. It typically involves a subjective experience such as joy, anger, sadness, fear, or surprise, and is often accompanied by physiological changes such as increased heart rate, when you see a boy you think he's cute, or changes in facial expressions. For instance, when you get mad. What's the difference between the two? Well, cognition involves a mental process like thinking, reasoning, memory, and problem solving, while emotion refers to feelings and subjective experiences like joy, anger, sadness, and fear. Cognition deals more with intellectual processes, while emotion is more about feeling and responses to stimuli. And of course, for the majority of that definition, that's a westernized version. That's a westernized definition of them. Okay, but that's also the difference in how our culture sees those two things and how other cultures views those two things as one and the same, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. And the importance of getting to understand different cultures is because, one, moving forward, we're a global society, whether you like to think so or not. So understanding different cultures, learning different language will make you more apt to being successful in the environments that are being created as we speak, as far as a global society, and we're already in it, a global economy. But go off, do what you feel. What up, Kent? Pseudo Killer Fish on the building. Holla at the people real quick.
What up, man? Glad to be here, yo. What's up to everybody on the panel, everybody in the chat? Know what I mean, right here, man. Chilling with the fam or whatever, man.
Big boy.
Tell moms to say what's up. Hey, moms.
Oh, true indeed. Will do. Yeah, they in the other room right now, but yeah, man. I thought I'd come in and kick it with y'all for a little bit, man. See what y'all was talking about.
You want to add anything real quick?
Nah, man. I'm fresh off out of nowhere, yo. So I ain't even listened to the last 5 minutes. I'm gonna get in where I fit in, yo.
I'm saying, you know some about this particular piece. Is there anything you just want to add real quick, or it's okay? Ain't no pressure, damn.
Yeah, nah, I get in a little bit.
All right. I know we just talked about the Himba people, and she talked about Greta Thunberg, which is a young lady who is autistic. I wanted to know if we wanted to get into that a little bit. Also talking about, different minds and where that comes from, different cultural experiences, just, even different body functions.
Yeah, most certainly. Greta Thunberg is one of my human superheroes.
Right.
I mean, this is a girl who, when you pay attention to her beginnings, a lot of times when I look at someone that I might want to have as a mentor or something like that, I pay attention to their beginnings and how far they came. And I'm usually looking for a fall of some kind. This is in the United States, especially the Western culture, autism, schizophrenia, things like that are looked at as mental illnesses. And this is a girl who, she's on the spectrum of autism, but is literally the face of climate change. Literally. And I'm talking about globally, not in the United States. So if you don't know who she is, you're definitely in the minority. It's kind of like those people that are trying to figure out, why is Taylor Swift being shown at the Super Bowl?
Right.
Well, as you get out from under that rock, you realize who she actually is. I think Miss Tiff actually told me who she, really, I had to get out from under my own rock with that. But even how you look at, like I said, the culture within the culture. We're talking about the Balinese people, the Himba people, but now we're just talking about humankind in general. When you had schizophrenia back in the day, you were considered, in some cases, a genius. You were considered like you knew something that was coming. You were considered a prophet or a saint. But now, if you have schizophrenia, you might be considered like one of the craziest people ever. You know what I mean? Or a situation where like an anachronistic, I love that word, an anachronistic kind of thought. Whereas before, maybe if you talked to mummies back in the day, you weren't considered, you might have been considered like a medium. Yeah, that's what they call it, a medium. Basically, you can speak to the dead and nobody else can, right? But now, if you speak to mummies, you can plan trips to Kemet and charge a couple $1,000s. Oh man! I didn't even mean to say that out loud.
Man, that's shame.
I didn't mean to say that out loud, but no, my point is, you can actually what?
Wow.
What I say?
You ain't say nothing wrong.
You boy.
I tell a lie? I mean, stop me when I tell a lie.
Nah, you ain't telling no lies. Go on.
But like I said, it's anachronistic. You used to get burned at the stake for some of the things that that you can just be considered mental illness now. So, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, did y'all get to the point, the part about why it's important to have a variation of different minds?
Oh, because natural selection favors it. We're just gonna get into it.
Yeah, we're coming up on that next. Yeah, that's the next.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Start it off.
That's the very next subject.
We love that.
So she said it's important for humans to have many kinds of minds, which is kind of like the group we got right now, right? The pseudo killers. We have a bunch of different minds in there, a bunch of different ideologies, beliefs, what have you. And she said variation is critical for the survival of the species.
Yeah.
And I think that works in groups as well as communities, because if you only have one way of thinking, then you're only gonna, like, if a problem comes that we can't solve, nobody's gonna be able to figure it out because everybody thinks the same way. Or you got a bunch of different minds thinking different ways of solving things, come from different backgrounds, might have experienced certain things that the others haven't. You have a better chance of progressing and moving forward.
Who did she say brought that forth though? They hate this guy, but who did she mention, Kent, when she spoke about that?
She mentioned Darwin. Charles Darwin.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Darwin was spot on, so don't get mad when people keep mentioning him, because his work is so relevant, like it can't even be defeated, right? It's on point. Bobby Banger, do you want to talk about it? Bobby.
It was very simplistic. That's all I can say. I mean, it ain't like, you couldn't have saw it before. You can go in your backyard and see it if you so choose to. So he's just the first one to actually, identify with the mechanism. It was people prior to him, right? Like Al-Jaheed talked about variation and stuff like that, but he just didn't identify. But anyway, that's the whole point, though. If you want to really understand these conversations dealing with the brain, dealing with anthropology, a lot of the arguments in the community would be null and void if they just, you know what I'm saying, just did a little bit of studying. They want to be in high level conversations, but don't actually want to put the work in to understand it, y'all. And it's the darndest thing ever, man. I can't wait till we get to the in depth to the expertise, man. Because y'all.
You know why though, right? Because there's nobody over there really challenging them. Like they don't, that's the true echo chamber when you have the wrong information and nobody's actually correcting you on that. If one of us say something over here that's out the way, hey, we going in. Like y'all don't see that Discord fight. It's almost more entertainment. It's almost more entertaining than the YouTube things that we go back and forth with other people. But because we had those inner fights or whatever, it helps us to, when we present to the public, we're not out here looking crazy.
Correct.
And Kent, like even with variation, you don't even have to talk about it. Just in variation is such a beautiful thing in regards to survival. We were just doing a show last night with Sakina, and we were talking about the global economy, the globalization of economy, and we were talking about how Sears and was it Kmart? I want to say Sears and Kmart, they went the way of the dinosaur. They went extinct because they didn't have variation at all.
Right.
While everybody is talking about the demise of Walmart, one of the powers of Walmart is their variation. You can go in there and get a basketball, a hammer, some eggs, a shirt, a video game, a TV. You can, they have that ability, so that even during economies or during catastrophes, you consider COVID-19 a business catastrophe.
Right.
So you look at how many businesses died and ended during that time. But Walmart is still probably one of the largest employers, if not the largest employer in the world. And they're going through a downturn. But I think that their variation is the thing that keeps them, going and keeps them powerful. So variation is very important. And I think another thing that she touched on was how it makes people uneasy. When we talk about evolution, natural selection, and these kinds of things, I'm never confused that people are uncomfortable with the conversation. But 9 times out of 10, the thing that I struggle with is that when you're uneasy on something, it means you're not prepared. And if you're not prepared, it means you're not usually educated on the subject. So what I don't like is when you struggle with it, you lash out at it with no research, no back end, no nothing whatsoever. But if you just took a half a day and really got into natural selection, really got into variation, really got into Darwin, not what people say about him, you would have a lot less issues with things like that. And then you'd be able to make connections that'll help you in your everyday life, your business, your family. Even when you invest, you cannot invest just in one thing. You invest in a portfolio of things. So, variation is all around us. You just got to pay attention.
Marcus, did you want to add something to that before I read this phrase about variation that she spoke about? Go ahead, Marcus.
No, I think that's a beautiful thing that Brad said. I think it's coming from what is it? The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a small book. We're not talking about accuracy, but there's a point in there where he talks about Lady Luck. And what he said is that there's no such thing as Lady Luck. It's just when opportunity meets preparation.
Correct.
Right. And so, you know, if you're going to hold conversation, if we want to talk about things intense, let's make sure that we're prepared. Let's look at it, study it, listen to the experts, find what they're saying, and then discuss it. Right. So it's nothing wrong with that, you know. But yeah, that Richest Man in Babylon, excellent book. Read it, had my children read it, whatever, you know. So yeah,
I used to always make that point about there's no luck, about, you know, preparation meets opportunity for a long time, and I actually didn't know where it come from. You feel me? I read it from someone or heard it from someone. I was like, that makes perfect logical sense. You understand? Because you know, you could look at different things, and most people are just ready and prepared to take on the opportunity when it presents itself. But this is moving a little bit into variation as a norm, which is as she says, is a blessing for our species. And I'm going to read something for you. So she speaks about us humans are more variable in our behaviors than any other species on Earth. In other animal species, the degree of behavioral diversity is matched by the degree of underlying genetic diversity, but not as humans. Our behaviors may vary more widely than any other animal species, but the diversity in our gene pool is, in fact, considerably lower than expected. And I thought that was very interesting and compelling for what we're talking about, because this again goes back to, you know, everyone not having the same mind. You know, so if you have 1 billion people on Earth, and each of those 1 billion people have like a different mindset, then you can just imagine the dynamics going on there. Like, you know, each person's feelings or way of thinking or whatnot is so distinctly different from the other. And like Brad spoke on earlier, a culture within a culture. Just because we are in a westernized culture, we're an American culture, we also have what you call, and the anthropologists call, subcultures, right? Even in the South, you have different avenues of subcultures, and in that the cultures are a little distinct or different. Gullah Geechee culture would be somewhat of a subculture of American culture, in a sense, if we were trying to give examples or whatnot.
Yeah, so that's excellent, and Louisiana is a prime example. Louisiana's culture is Creole for real. Like,
Correct.
It's a beautiful blend of French, Spanish, and English, and that culture is unique to Louisiana. You know, it's unique to the circumstances that developed that culture there. Joel, he's in the chat now. He's reading a book about the different variations you find across the United States, based on a conversation we had about something that happened in the 1600s, right? And you can see the evidence of that still playing out today. And so we talked about culture from one place to another, but you know, in all honesty, you have cultures in your family, in your neighborhood, in the community that you live in, maybe if you the city that you live in, the state that you live in, the region that you live in. You know, all those things have their own cultures to it, macro cultures. But the bottom line is, you know, we're all almost genetically exactly alike, and so finding that demarcation line on what is purely genetics or what is purely culture really doesn't fit into the conversation. You know, I think earlier she talked about nature versus nurture, where it wasn't really a versus, it's more like a beautiful blend and mixture of it. And
correct.
So, yeah.
It's not a versus, it's a mixture of both. Yeah, we spoke on that earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, variation is the norm. That's one of my favorite phrases that came out of this this book right here. I say it all the time. You know, hey, look, man, human variation is a norm. It ain't no set path for what people can do. And it's basically because we have such a wide and range of social environments that we can live in. You know, our work environment is different than our home environment. And then if you religious, your church environment is different. You belong to any type of club or anything like that, that is different. And so because we have different statuses across wide social events or advents in our lives, you get a high variety of behavior differences.
So you're getting into acculturation when you speak on that a little bit.
Exactly.
Before we jump into acculturation, I wanted to discuss how she spoke about this phenomena about, you know, some people preference self versus some people preferencing, you know, the group or the whole, and also this dichotomy of equality versus hierarchy. But did we want to speak, you know, a little bit on the self versus the whole, as far as what she discussed, Brass or Marcus? Because I thought that was interesting. Because even in different cultures or people groups, like a lot of times you will hear that the African cultures or people groups are centered around, you know, the whole, you know, not the self. And then that westernized culture is centered around the self or individual and not the whole.
Yeah, look at Buddhism.
Right.
You know
That's centered around self, though. But I think that's centered around self in order you have to be centered within yourself or stable in order to be part of the whole in an advantageous way. You get what I'm saying? If I'm not mistaken, I should do a little Buddhism. It's not entirely just a self-centered thing, though. It's more or less focusing on yourself so you can be better for the whole. But
right.
Other people want to go and get into it real quick?
But I think that what's important, and that goes right back into, I'm not trying to go backwards with the variation. In order for us as a humankind to survive and thrive, we have to be different. So I think we need to appreciate our differences. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not trying to be too lovey-dovey, but I'm one of those people that think, you know, love is when you're in love with your partner's flaws. Just as much as you're in love, it does just as much as you're in love with their strengths. So if you can fall in love with the things that make you different, you know, that's a marriage that could survive and thrive. But you know, when I look at Buddhism, I do my best not to judge it. I mean, I've seen things where they set up themselves on fire, or you know,
different kinds of Buddhism, though. There's different.
I mean, just different. I'm talking about the one I saw.
Okay,
I mean, I would imagine it's probably a bunch I don't understand, but I'm saying when you see
Buddhism, I don't remember we doing that. I mean, I practice a little bit, so that's why I say that. We're finished. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, that's all I wanted to say on that.
Reiterating that variation is the key to survival, and then reading the book, I started to think about those that pocket of humans, right? Bobby Benger used to talk about. We talk about that almost got extinct, right? So then I'm thinking about then how did we survive and all the other homo groups didn't? You feel me? Was it because we were more varied? You understand what I'm saying? We have more diversity. Like I started to really like wonder about some things. You get what I'm saying? Like trying to apply that to, you know what I'm saying, just to our own existence and how and the things that I know, which I thought was, you know,
omnivores.
Right.
Eat everything. The nutcracker had the big jaws. He could only eat the nuts. Then you had the vegans, right? When it stopped raining and all that went out, they was done. They was too picky. They was too finicky. Them Homo sapiens eat anything moving.
Okay. That's what I'm talking
nobody
about.
Move. Nobody get ate.
No,
you can even eat other humans if you ran out of food for real. Man, I don't know.
You eat a cockroach.
Eat a roach from a roach to another human. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Omnivores. That's why we still here. I'll die. And being able to, you know, survive in different environments and being able to skin, right? You know, you have different variations of skin color, which allowed you to inhabit areas, different areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all that's in the game, man. So yeah, so the very thing you hate about everybody and all that nonsense, yo, is the very thing that gave you survival. So yeah, that's the trip.
That's word.
It boiled down to it. It boiled down to exactly what Brad said. Yo, we gotta start celebrating our cultural differences.
Absolutely.
And like the lady that we had on a couple of months ago, the scientist, when she said, we can't trip over.
McTeer.
Yeah, Miss McTeer, Dr. McTeer. She said we can't trip over those petty surface level adaptations. I like how she said that. Like she didn't just say black, white, no. She said surface level adaptations. That's all it is.
You're right. Somebody said Juju. Somebody said you early, and I want you to put the comment up, but you missed it. They was like, we was talking about all tribes that was in the northern regions weren't aggressive. And you can basically tell that most people don't even study all that because, like they wasn't all aggressive. You had farming communities, right? You had herding communities. You had warlike communities, right? They talk about all the time. They came down from the steeples of Russia riding horseback, very aggressive. You see certain movies like Thunder the Barbarian. Am I saying his name right? Is that the name of it?
I don't know.
You just had warlike tribes. You know what I'm saying? In Africa, you got L3. L3 was a warrior tribe. Matter of fact, they the tribe that was able to leave out of Africa because they was wild. Right? Yeah, they was. L3. I promise you. In Sudan, 10,000, 15,000 years ago, you got some of the first wars being fought.
Right.
Very, very aggressive tribes in Africa. Very, very aggressive tribes amongst the Native Americans. There's a variation. Remember, you talk about the variation, right? Well, human response. So the way we learned it was based off of running out of food supplies, whatever. Europeans left and went whatever they went. But in reality, you can have a community where the food source ain't growing that well.
Right.
And some farmers will start robbing other farmers. And then you'll have some farmers that will just leave and go somewhere else. And then you'll have some farmers that will actually share their food. So within that, there's a variation in response.
Right.
You feel me? Which is important. Sometimes you might got to take somebody something.
You might.
That might work.
The fittest.
Then sometimes it might not. Sometimes it's better to share.
Right.
So those different behaviors are at play. And that's what culture forms. It forms, it picks out the element that helps give the tribe survivability. But that's what it is.
Yeah, see, everybody got stuck on the Iceman heritage. You know what I'm talking about? Bobby Banger, the book, the Iceman Heritage.
Yeah, that was a pseudo work for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of my favorite books. It was bad.
It fit some tribes. They was definitely aggressive. Yeah, those Europeans was very aggressive. Yeah,
but was it scientifically sound?
No, the book wasn't. But those Europeans that dealt with the color racism, they were very aggressive. But look what they was fighting against. Those tribes were the ones that were succumbed to the Romans. Right. So look, they got it honest, man. The whole thing, the human behavior and human beings, period, and the way that mind works, man, is very interesting story. I will say that.
I got something I want to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Juju.
I was gonna read a little something about the individualistic and the collective cultures. So if you want to, I'll wait for you.
No, I'm gonna touch on that after you read. Go ahead and read it first.
Okay, so it says some cultures prioritize individuals over the group, because we was kind of talk about this, so I kind of want to wrap it up, so to give you a clear understanding. So some cultures prioritize individuals over the group, while others do the opposite. And she is really going into also trying to measure attitudes and behaviors of people. She talks about I'll get into that later, because this is another thing, how they try to categorize our where we stand as far as personalities and what type of mind we have. But in her extended notes, and mind you, I'll leave all this in the description box so you all can actually read where we're reading from. And with the source material, she actually gave extended notes to have 1,000 other sources and goes really deep. Like even in this conversation, we're just scratching the surface because there's so much. But if you want to delve into a little more on certain aspects of the conversation, we have it all there for you. But these particular little boxes are labeled individualistic or collectivist. Some scientists believe that the distinction between individualist and collectivist cultures has roots in agriculture. Namely, we kind of spoke about this, whether a culture grows rice or wheat. These two crops require very different physical conditions for farming, and in particularly, growing rice requires more cooperation among neighboring farmers to manage their use of water. That's important, right? And indeed, there's evidence that the minds of certain rice-growing cultures focus more on the needs of the many, while the minds in the wheat-growing cultures focuses on the individual. Think about that the next time you choose between rice, noodles, and spaghetti. That's very interesting, because now that gives you an inside look into somewhat the evolutionary processes, or the evolution of culture among groups for the ability or the need to survive, and how they had to manage different things like water, even to grow the crops, and how that basically created the mind, their particular type of mind.
Yeah, that microenvironment, I think she named it.
Marcus, Brass, go ahead.
That study that you're talking about, fascinating study.
I bet.
Devastated because I had it in the old Discord. So I'm going to pull that study back up about the wheat and the rice farmers. The study they
what happened to the other Discord?
Nothing.
And they got nuked, bro. It got nuked. Yeah, it got nuked.
Y'all want to talk about it?
Nah, yo.
Nah. I'm gonna pull it up and put it back in the new one though. But that study,
supposedly.
We went from an apartment.
We
went from an apartment sleeping in bunk beds to a mansion, so we ain't mad. Go out.
The new one's definitely upgrade, but nevertheless.
Man, we're fine.
But the bricks, the projects, man. Back in the day, the old Discord though.
Projects.
It was in the projects in the brick.
Got the projects.
Like back home, back in the day, goddamn.
Yeah, our new Discord is way better.
We got a lot of we got the electric police running around there though, boy.
It reminds me of
electric police dogs in that.
You definitely got a lot of police presence. You know what I'm saying? When you pay more rent, you get a heavier police presence. In the when wasn't no police.
If your key fob don't work, you can't get in. If your key fob ain't working, you ain't getting in. What you say?
Hey, in Charleston on Rivers Avenue, right? There used to be this projects that used to be over there, right? And they used to go to high school with us, and we used to call them niggas the PCP project, whatever their little gang name was or whatever. But I remember one year they actually knocked down the whole project, like they wiped it out. So that neighborhood was no more. It was no more. It was just flat, no more. And 2 or 3 years later, they built condos over there. And I was like, how they wipe out a whole neighborhood? So they wiped out the whole neighborhood. You couldn't even represent it no more because it wasn't there. It was gone.
My PC, what? That don't even exist no more. Shut up. Y'all ain't even.
But yeah, it just goes to show, you can wipe that out and, you build something new, and now new people live there. Not some white folk living over there now. You know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, I don't know why.
We on a tangent, y'all. It's all good.
My bad.
It's all good. No, but the rice and the wheat people, I think that was interesting. And Marcus, yeah, I definitely want to see that study, because listen, so this whole chapter was about how creating different minds. You feel me? And what that entails. No mind is alike. The mind is separate from the brain. Do I need to go ahead and read the definition of a mind and a brain?
I want to finish let me finish what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
So the study was about people going into Starbucks in China, And the fascinating part about it is they're the same people, just some lived up on a mountain area where it was easier to grow wheat, and some lived down in the valley where you would grow rice. And they behave functionally different based on that, about what happened in the Starbucks. They would put chairs in the way, and those from the rice area would walk around, and those who from the wheat area would separate. But it also comes in play in West Africa, right? Because the yam farmers tended to have more of a unitarian society, because when you grow yams, the expiration date, you got to be really quick about it. It got to be real organized. It's easy to get damaged and to become susceptible to disease. You find that. And then you found out during the transatlantic slave trade, they find some evidence of different responses to slavery, depending on what section and area you came from, and whether you already had experiences outside of egalitarian society. So you find it fascinating with the rice and wheat. They were talking about like their grandparents and great grandparents. It wasn't even them that may have been directly from the culture. It could have been their grandparents, great grandparents that were from there, and you still see the effects of it. Fascinating study about that. And you can find other examples layered throughout in Europe and throughout the whole globe. So that's a human thing, but it's a beautiful where you can see how modes of production can influence your view of the world. This is what Sheikh Anta Diop got wrong. When you talk about the two cradle thing, that utterly wrong. Modes of production, we see evidence of. That other thing, we have no proof of that at all. It just doesn't make sense based on what we know now.
Right on. Bobby Banger, Brass, y'all want to add to that real quick? Do we need to read the definition between the mind and the brain to refresh the audience? Marcus, what you think?
Sure, go ahead.
Where's the mind at?
The brain?
There is no mind. The brain. How we used to say this? It's a brain.
The mind is abstract. It's an
abstract idea.
Yeah, it's a description of the mechanisms that's happening in our brain. You know, I might be a little off on that.
I'm with
that. If I'm wrong, Marcus.
It's all our minds connected to what?
I'm just reading for you.
Abstractly.
I'm gonna tell you what the brain is first.
Make it up.
Go ahead.
Because you can't have a mind without the brain.
Right.
That's one thing. So no matter how if they say they separate, if you ain't got no brain, you damn sure ain't got no mind. That's one thing we do know, right? But the brain, the brain is an organ, and it serves as a center of the nervous system in all vertebrates and most invertebrate animals. It is responsible for controlling bodily functions, processing sensory information, and coordinating movements and behaviors. In humans, the brain plays a crucial role in higher functions, such as thinking, memory, emotion, and consciousness. Because, the brain is pretty much, it's the bank, right? That pretty much budgets our body in all the processes. The mind refers to a collective aspects of intellect and consciousness, encompassing functions such as perception, cognition, emotion, imagination, and memory. It is the faculty of a person's thoughts and consciousness, including their beliefs, attitudes, subjective experiences. While closely associated with the brain, the mind is considered distinct as it encompasses the entirety of mental processes and experiences, including both conscious and unconscious elements. Then I ask, what's the difference? Well, kind of reiterating, but the brain is a physical organ within the body that serves at the center of the nervous system, responsible for processing sensory information, controlling body functions, facilitating cognitive process. Consists of neurons, glial cells, we spoke about all that, and various structures that regulate different functions. On the other hand, the mind refers to the collective aspects of consciousness and mental process, including perception, cognition, all those things I named earlier. While closely associated with the brain, the mind is considered to be the subjective experience of mental process and consciousness. It encompasses the entirety of a person's thoughts, etc., etc. In
Right.
summary, the brain is a physical organ where the mind is a subjective experience and manifestation of mental processes.
Right. So the mind is a collection of those is an explanation of a collection of those processes that happen, right? And culture is a collection of what a group of people do the same way.
Right, it's a collection of cultures, kind of a collection, a shared collection of different of certain different experiences and other processes. That's kind of how you get culture, in a sense. So
Right.
you're saying like the mind is somewhat of
it's like a
microcosm of the brain, of the culture, rather.
Right.
Yes, right. I got that.
Because culture is also abstract, but it's like, you have hip hop culture, for instance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not a thing that you can just grab out the air, but it's something that you can see a collective do, and you can call that, oh, that's hip hop.
I got you.
I mean, but go ahead.
So next, she talked about, talking about different minds and how those minds can create different types of personalities and how to measure, or how people try to measure those personalities. And one thing she spoke about was a Myers-Briggs, which is interesting because, we've heard of this, lots of jobs or different entities will use this to try to help people figure out what they are, or what they're, best in as far as personality traits. And here's an example of it. But unfortunately, people, this test here that we've all come to know and love is not scientifically sound whatsoever, because it's skewed. It mostly deals with what people think about themselves and what is actually true. Because we can think a lot of things about ourselves and all of it can be a damn lie. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, I'm just saying, but this is a Myers-Briggs. But what was so cute and funny is that, and I'm being a little funny, but she spoke about a test that actually is a little bit more accurate. It was funny, and I actually took this test today, y'all. And I'm a Hogendorf or something. But she said this one is a little bit more accurate. So if you're interested in taking this test, there you go. It's the Hogwarts house on Wizard World. I swear to God. So you can take this test and figure out what house you're in. I'm in the yellow house, which is the good people. Yeah, just saying. I can go check that out. But pretty much, it's not really a test that can basically, from her understanding, the Myers-Briggs is not a test that basically can read your personality. And because things are so very complex,
right.
It'll be hard to determine certain factors. Does anybody else want to speak on that?
Yeah, and everybody, different people can have a different experience of you, right? So
exactly,
you might think of yourself. Somebody might think the total opposite. Somebody might think more of or less.
Right.
It's a weird thing, yo.
It is
personality. Of course, we think the best of ourselves. We think we're the best, judgment wise. Nice. We think we're the nicest, or the you know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody else that might notice other flaws that we overlook.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't give us a clear assessment of ourselves. So,
Brass or Marcus or Bobby, you have anything to say before I get into catalog of mental disorders, which was that's definitely.
Oh man, I would like to say just take a moment. I think we're like an hour and something, and let everybody know, man. We got a low enrollment for the Discord, man. You know what I'm saying?
Talk about it. Go ahead, talk about it.
Send us an email, man. Come on into our new space with us. You talk about diversity and the mind and the way we think, and have a shot at it, right? Yeah, we welcome. Bustling community, and we just want to tease out the intelligence in each other. That's all, right?
Mhm.
So y'all know what it is, man. Come on through. We got different sections in the discourse, in the Discord, right? For you, you know, you might be a philosophy type of person, you know, mythology, right? Religion. That we make no bones. That's in the same section. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
Don't play the game, right? You want politics, host of things, man. And you know, man, we want y'all to come on through. Be a little vetting process for you. We don't want a whole bunch of crazy people. You know what I'm saying? We want to be able to, you know, see what it is. So y'all got the email, man, pseudokillers@gmail.com. Do that, man. We get that link, man, and come on through, man. And let's have some fun, man. Just wanted to put it out there. And plus, you know, take a moment out, man, to go ahead and cash app your favorite pseudo killer, man. You know, they working hard. You know, show some love. You know what I mean? And yeah. Also using community, what?
Yeah, it's CO Skeptics.
Yeah, CO Skeptics. That's Green Skeptics. Okay. So that's the email right there she's using. Okay.
If you want a link to the Discord, Pseudo Killers, brand new, hot Discord, hot and popping. And no, it's not an echo chamber. And no, we don't care if you don't agree on everything we agree on. It's not like that. We all don't agree on things. Like
you just got to be real with yourself.
Yeah, it's a learning environment. Is what it is.
Wait a minute.
DeMar to my no crazy people.
Lie. I don't want to lie.
Go ahead.
Not gonna come in John 23s.
Okay, yeah, we don't want nobody.
Not going John 23s. You're gonna have to have some scholarship behind you. You're not gonna, we're not gonna do that. That's what we're not gonna do. But there is a section for you if you want to play that role.
Yeah, if y'all want to do a little private,
you gotta put some real information in the section because there's actually something called theology for real, and people get degrees in that, doctorates. Matter of fact, we're gonna interview Reverend the Rev. Yeah, he just actually got his degree in theology. He actually got that.
Pastor Bennett.
He actually finished that.
Oh, I was joking.
No, he really did. He got it. Yeah. So
we're gonna interview Pastor Bennett. He don't know. I like Pastor Bennett.
Yeah,
and he does work for the
community. With what he believes. He got to come in there with what he learned in school. You feel me?
Yeah, but he actually does a tremendous amount of work for the community, which I think is pretty awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, if you helping black
people, Pastor Bennett.
Means you use. Don't matter what means. I mean, if you helping people, right? And you say, well, they brainwashed us with religion. Well, don't get yourself brainwashed. Go ahead and believe in your God, and then follow through with, being scientifically literate, so you can understand the politics in your community. And understand how things work, and don't be on the wrong side of history. The conscious community is worse than people in religion. Gone.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like to if we do interview Pastor Bennett, I'd rather interview him more on the man that he is rather than the ideology push. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's deal with the person.
Nah, I want to talk about what he learned in school. Well, yeah, because you don't learn. In theology school, you don't learn. You know that though, right? Yeah, they don't you can't say Jesus is real. You know what I'm saying? It can't prove Jesus. It can't. That's not it, right? They're gonna give it historical backing on things. They're gonna get that's real right there, yo. That's a serious study. Matter of fact, I don't know how people come back and still be preachers after that.
Right.
It shake a lot of them foundation. Yeah, look it up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, buddy. That's gonna be hot. Shout out to Pastor Bennett, though.
Also, make sure y'all check us out on other social media things. We now on Clubhouse, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. So you can check us out at all those other locations as well.
I'm glad I was muted when I said what I said. Right. If you can, if you go to a theology school, right, and they teach you or they push you to teach something that you don't fully believe in, and you still teach it, would that make you, Art?
If what?
If you go to a school, you went to theology school, and they push you to teach something that you don't really believe in, right? And you continue to teach it to your people, to your community, what does that make that person?
Scammer.
I didn't say it.
Bobby Banger, there's
Yes.
a question for you.
Mhm.
Read that.
Man,
Answer that because it asked you.
was man Smooth a light skinned man or a dark skinned man? I have no idea. I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. I have no idea.
What does
Do
it matter?
y'all know?
He was West African.
Was he light skin or dark
It's
skin?
Yeah,
West
it could have
Central
ranged.
African. That's
Yeah,
that's
West Africans range in skin color. West Africans
Correct.
all
What
skin
does it
color.
matter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
I don't understand about the skin color, but
I mean, if you ain't
doing
jet
that.
black, you couldn't. If you ain't jet black, you ain't African.
And they
Remember
show
the
him
new
looking
rule
like
now?
a European,
Nah,
a European.
that's not a rule. That's not a scientifically
Or
sound
the
rule.
depiction
Though.
of him shows him looking like a European. I don't know.
Suppose
seen
he
that?
did though, but suppose what you think is European is really African.
What really black was really
Then
white.
what?
You stupid kid.
What was really white was really black, and what was really black was really white.
Mm-mm.
Hold on. While you playing, you know your skin color can actually change within 100 generations. I want y'all to know y'all might not look like your ancestors look.
Mm-hmm.
Skin color that you got right now, that you looking in the mirror with, your
Mhm.
ancestors might not have had that.
Uh-oh. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Get that sizzle in your spirit.
You
Mhm.
silly can't.
Because if you don't look like your ancestors, then are you as proud of your ancestors or being from those ancestors as you were?
Now they have a fit. Right until you realize the ancestors you thought was white, you know, you got some genes that made your heart beat a little bit better than your cousins and that.
What if your
They
heart?
had a heart attack early in life, but you didn't.
What if that good heart came from that European, that 3% European part of your DNA?
Yeah, they wouldn't care at that point. Don't nobody when they like the anti-vaxxers, yo, when they messed up, when the vegans is about to, they be like, oh my God, when that ambulance come get them and put that mask on them, and you know, and he white and they look in their eyes, you know, when you shot up, I'm telling you, I wasn't saying, man, don't touch me.
Man, look,
You don't say that, yo. You go to the hospital to get the bullets out you, and you ain't tripping.
People got to start appreciating the diversity in their DNA, man. That's what helped us survive. Like, appreciate all of you, not just a piece of you, not just the majority of you, but all of you.
Yeah, but I think people really got to push back against, you know, I think the pushback should be, you know, being wary of people that's dishonest and mistreating you.
Sure
I think that's clearly important. I think it's also important to keep understanding of your cultural backgrounds and where you come from and how you got here. I think that's essential. I will never get away from that. I think it's super important to recognize how we got here, and let no child forget that. Okay, and based off of what the government in the United States, which we all voted for, you know, racism, you know, ain't gone. It is systemic, is in institutions, and so we got to keep pushing, right? We got to keep working, we got to keep learning, we got to keep functioning. We can't be sailing around in wooden boats.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we can't be, you know, kicking old rhetoric that's clearly didn't work then. We seen what worked, you know, being involved in politics, doing community work. You know, for me, you know what community work is for me? Making people aware. You talked about this, Marcus. There's some old people you talked about that wasn't aware of certain vouchers and stuff like that, right? So the real community work is people like us that are very proficient in understanding paperwork and stuff like that. That's what you're supposed to be telling the community, bro. You know how many people I helped to have businesses to get the legitimate loans during the pandemic because they didn't know what are you talking about? Got a legitimate business? Yeah, that's what you do. I'm not helping you do nothing. Get your paperwork in line and go do that. That's all of you right there.
Free money.
Right. So my point is, real community work is making us aware of things. You know how to get a red light in your community? Those things, I think Brad's kind of talked about that. Those small things are important that everybody just don't know how to do. They put that little ass stops, that little thing in the street, talking about slow down.
Because with the person walking,
can't even, you run them over.
No, we need speed bumps. We need stop signs.
Right. That's when you become. That's when you become engaged in your local politics. And that's when you know the mayor
Right,
and the
work.
city manager, and you work with them into getting
Hold
speed bumps in your community or stop signs or whatnot. I mean,
on.
that's
I thought
real.
everybody knew. I thought everybody knew to go to your city hall meetings though.
They don't, and they
No,
don't.
I ain't never been to a city hall meeting. Y'all,
Yeah,
none of y'all.
I've been to
everybody don't
plenty
know
of
that,
them.
kid.
Everybody.
That's not
I've been to
universal
plenty of them,
knowledge.
but that's why I said that's where it starts out. Like if you're really trying to get a speed bump in the community because you know there are children around and people are speeding
There's city hall meetings
That's what
happening
they do.
all the time.
every week.
Nobody knows about this.
Every week. Yeah. But I want to get back on the road so we can get through this and go ahead and finish out Lisa Baird if y'all don't mind. We are on right now. I lost a catalog of mental disorders. Then I wanted to get in a little bit about affect and a belief in God, and then talk about acculturation. So, who wants to lead that out about the catalog of mental disorders? Because that's real touchy. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. Go on, Marcus.
So this is where things get kind of touchy, and it's going to. Some people may not like what science, or at least some in science, say what many of the spiritual acclamations that people hold high really are. She uses a specific example in this book, but the one that kind of got me to realize what they were trying to say was Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther,
The one Martin Luther King got it from.
exactly, who went through Reformation against the Catholic Church. When you read his journal, if a person was to say what he said in his journal, we would call that OCD. He had a compulsion he constantly felt dirty and unclean, and so he would wash his hands 60 to 75 times a day. Sometimes he wouldn't be able to even leave his, I don't know what they call it, it wasn't a home.
Domain, docile, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's obsessive compulsive disorder, by the way.
Absolutely. But when you look at him, we look at him today, we say, well, he was this great religious leader that brought about reformation from the church. And you have other examples of that. Schizophrenia, that's the big one. In cultures where mental health is not quite as known, hearing voices can be signs of spiritual awakening. Mother Teresa, when we look into these individuals' lives and we look at it from a mental health issue, we see that there's some traces that today we would without a doubt consider to be variations of mental health. And so, there was a time when it was out I guess about 20 years ago, where they talked about the Prophet Muhammad, that he was having seizures really, and that he was having these seizures, and it developed into images and I guess we would call it visions, but it is what it is. Like the descriptions that they got from it is like a person who has epileptic seizures in a specific part of the brain.
Yeah, they was in a trance, Holy Ghost, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating thing. They did a study with Mormons about that, and Dr. Andy touches on it briefly in an interview. Y'all make sure y'all go back and look at that interview.
That's now awesome.
Now that y'all got some more context to it. And he talks about brain activity and how it lights up and how we interpret it as one thing, and it just is what it is. So that's the current theory right now about these certain people in certain conditions.
Brass, did you want to add? Kent or Bobby to that about catalog of mental disorders, Things that were deemed unacceptable then are acceptable now. Mm.
Don't get me started on mental disorders in this damn community.
Mm.
Just don't get me, man. That'll stop, man. Look. Hey, what disorder would you call playing expert?
Oh, that's still that's on the disorder scam.
That's schizophrenia. What is that? Will you like Umar when he don't get nothing? Wait, when he think he can run a whole school? Hey yo, remember you pull?
Man, y'all crazy.
Hey yo, what you call a person that think he got a school, yo? And you pulled up 2 weeks ago. The man got the gym painted before he put windows in it. He got boarded up windows and doors.
Omar said psychopath. No.
What do we call that, yo? When you paint the gym, you paint the gym and make sure the 2 bathrooms right there work. That's it. Right? And ain't got no front doors, windows, nothing. The grass ain't cut. What disorder we calling that?
But Bobby, he ain't paint the gym. He photoshopped that paint.
I think the gym is.
Come on, now.
That's just a thief.
When I picture that,
Yeah, he's just a thief. Ain't nothing mental about him. He a thief.
That's a grifter.
They call him a
That's
thief.
what you call a grifter.
Yeah, but that's delusions. But that's a delusion too. Delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Where you think that you can't just be like the rest of us.
Right.
Somehow you got this bright idea, and you just gonna go ahead and enforce it on us. And be better than the rest of us based off no expertise, no sources, no nothing. You just got delusions of grandeur.
Scammer disorder.
Called the scammer disorder.
Scammer disorder. No, it's a symptom. It's a symptom. Scamming is the symptom. Grifting is the symptom of delusions of grandeur. You just wow.
Be on the lookout for people playing Egyptology. Be on the lookout.
On a serious note, man, I think it was a lot of disorders that went undiagnosed. In the Black community, and the children's parents just beat them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of them really had issues, and you know how Black families was back in the day. Oh, ain't nothing wrong with my child.
Right.
Don't listen. He's just bad.
Yeah, they just beat him, and
they beat him.
Made it worse, right?
It worse. And that makes it that actually, those disorders along with abuse actually make the disorder even worse.
Correct.
And other things.
Yeah, but like Kent, when they talk about normal, normal is almost like a catchphrase. You can gaslight somebody with the word normal now. So when you say things like, normal back in the day, they used to try to electrocute the homosexuality out of you. And then now LGBTQ, I guess that's the new normal. And then 100 years from now, we're gonna have another normal. Normal is relative.
Hold on, you think they try to electrocute them niggas?
Yeah, they used to be. What did you say?
Electric.
Oh no, I'm gonna move past that. No, there used to be camps,
or they lobotomized them.
Wow.
Yep.
Lobotomy was a popular procedure in psychiatric wards for disorders, for things that they deemed a disorder that we would probably deemed acceptable in society today.
Well, that's when they start that thing in your nose, right?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Your brain, take out a piece of your brain or something.
Yeah, that's a lobotomy. Brash, you wanted to finish that?
They did what?
Yeah, they stick that thing up your nose and grab a piece of your brain, take a piece of your brain out through your nose.
For real? While people was living?
In psychiatric wards, yes. That
was like
how they stop the infection though?
That we don't know. I don't know. That's one of the main ways that they
bloodletting. It was one of those pseudo scientific. They thought they was doing some justice, but they was really fucking people up.
And that's funny, yo.
It's wild.
And that's funny, yo.
Did you want to finish?
Yeah, but normal.
What's up, sister Sci-Fi?
Normal is relative. Just
normal
is a relative thing. When people like to, we were just joking in the Discord earlier, Kent, about how in about 100 years, 200 years, they're gonna be like, we used to drive around in gas cars and be looking at us like we were absolutely insane.
Yeah,
that we used to eat 3 meals a day, or they used to have whole buffets where you could pay $30 and eat whatever you want. Like things are gonna be Everything is relative to the time. One of the greatest parts of these conversations that that you guys have on these panels is you have a real understanding of anachronistic. You really have a strong understanding that what was normal then, that was normal to them at the time. I think Unc one time was talking about, I forgot who he was. We talking about somebody trying to, I think they were talking about scholarship back in the day and how hard it was to actually get a college degree versus now. You know what I mean? They used to, when you wanted to be educated, we take education for granted now, kids skipping school and different things like that. Where these, you used to have to fight through hoses and German shepherds to try to get your education before.
For real.
And
it's a whole nother, it's just funny when you look, it's interesting, not funny. It's interesting when you look back in time and then you try to paint that forward. I remember when I was a kid, I had snow days. When it was snow, we was off. But because of COVID now, my son hates snow days. Why? Because they got a computer that they sit at home with. And they could just go right. It was just like a regular school day. He went down in the basement and went to school for 7 hours on his laptop. So it's all, everything is normal is a relative thing. So be careful when you calling somebody weird or calling somebody this or calling somebody that. Their actions might say one thing. Or abnormal. The actions might say one thing, but in all actuality, remember that same person that has seizures and visions about 100, 200 years ago was a saint or a prophet. They, they knew things that were coming. So it's
a saint or a prophet, or they were deemed a witch. And, it was to an extreme, right? Depending on, time and place. So I just think that's pretty fascinating, though, right? It could be two different extremes to the same condition, depending on where you were and what place and time in history that was. But also leading into
that is a terrible thing to waste. Ain't that what they say?
Yeah. But leading into that effect, she speaks a lot on effect in the source material, and also about intuition and how that leads into the belief in God. And Marcus, I'm gonna go to you. Or Kent, did you want to talk about it? Or
no, you got it. Go ahead, Mark.
I want to. Bobby brought up a good point about what's going on in the community, and I'm going to read something from the Death of Expertise, which we will be heading, to shortly, and it's about the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's very, very interesting. It says, this is Dunning talking about the work they did in this study. It says, in our work, we asked survey respondents if they were familiar with certain technical concepts from physics, biology, politics, and geography. A fair number claimed familiarity with the genuine terms like centrifugal force and photons, but increasingly, they also claimed some familiarity with concepts that were entirely made up, such as the plate of parallax, ultralipid, and chlorine. In one study, roughly 90% claimed some knowledge of at least one of the 9 fictitious concepts we asked them about. Now, Dunning-Kruger effect is a tested, known effect that people have, in which they somehow or another tend to think they know way more on a subject than they actually do, and are willing to overcompensate what they know in any type of conversation or dialogue. In the case of the study they're referring to, there's been tons of them. They took people and asked them about things that people have a general understanding of, like photon light, we understand to some minimum degree. But then they added to that fictitious terms that they just made it up. And the people were like, yeah, I know about that too. And then went on to try to give even an example of what these terms mean. So I kind of see that happening quite a bit. It's a human experience, but the only way you can kind of like ward against that, which I doubt if you can. I think anybody can fall victim to it at any time. Is to stay humble. Realize that you really don't know as much as you think you do. Like we talking about the brain, um, man, this is a subject that experts battle with constantly. You know what I'm saying? And we just presenting information from Lisa Barrett to try to get people just interested in the conversation. But in all reality, we barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, this is really still surface level information because, like I said, if you go into those notes to the source material and you look at how in depth the notes is and how many sources she leads you to outside of hers, that we would be a year really if we got to every distinct point and got all the way down to it. This is almost a year's worth of information, and this is probably 20 plus years of actually studying and collecting and researching. So we're giving you the basics so you can have a better understanding. So that shows how much we really don't know. Like in general, general population, general people, like we think we know certain things, but we have no clue. And what we and like we always say, what's the word that we use? It is because what we think about science is actually something else. Come on, y'all. Bobby Binger says it all the time. Somebody in the chat. What is it? It's Anna. Huh? What you say, Kent?
No, my bad. I might have misspoke. Counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive. Thank you very much. That's what I mean. It's very counterintuitive to what we think and what it actually is. So yeah, a lot of work. But go ahead, Marcus. I just wanted to reiterate that because it's a lot. Every time I study for this show and I go, because that's what I use. I use her notes. Yo, I'll be like, wow. Every time.
Yeah, our experience is definitely counterintuitive, yo.
Definitely. Who is the lady up there? Marcellus, why? But go ahead. I wanted you to get into effect if you can, Marcus. Or we just gonna go right into acculturation because I thought that was an important piece of this book.
Yeah, you can share my screen.
I got you.
I got some stuff there. Now, this is the image you see there with the circle is what's actually in the book. Now, affect is a psychological term, really, where they talk about how your mood and things change. The current understanding is the first section with the QR code is wiki anyway. The current understanding of it is that it has something to do with the default mode network, and that your brain is constantly monitoring your effects, how you feel, you could say, whether you know it or not. Part of that is physiological, like glucose levels, sucrose levels, hormone levels, blood pressure levels, right? And then it makes, you could say, assumptions on the cause of these minor changes, and it can easily get confusing. So in the excuse me, the image I have up, excuse me, she uses a small scale of it between active, pleasant, idle, or unpleasant. But if you look at this one, this is one from another psychological course in which you see much more definition than gradients in it. So if you're annoyed, you're still at the unpleasant sign, but you may not be as mad or frustrated or angry, happy, excited, content down there by pleasant or mild, and all those things play a role. Now, some people may not understand why it's important. It comes to this section right here. So in a study back done in October 24th, 2008, It was reported in the journal Nature. What happened is they did a study on things like cold drinks versus warm drinks. They've been doing the study quite a bit. This is not the first one, and they actually have ones after it too. And basically, what happened is in this study, people who held warm drinks in their hand were more likely to have a positive effect. Well, the holding warm drinks had a positive effect on how you viewed other people. Having a cold one had the opposite effect. And what they believe what's going on is our language and our feelings are kind of blending with our physiological experiences. So when we meet people, we can say like they're warm-hearted.
Yeah.
Right? This guy was cold-hearted. And so because our language associates people's characteristics and behavior the way they do, at times it can be, you can not really confuse, but the assumptions and predictions your brain make can be a little off. Error management system can help fix it, but that doesn't do enough. So you meet somebody and you're holding a warm cup of coffee in your hand, you tend to view that person warmly, right? And so it's this blend of affect and physiological features and the human brain that brings us to this point. And one of the key parts about that is this has nothing to do with your belief system. So if you were to go, I'm going to read the part where she talks about how affect can source us in that direction, right? Affect is a source of all your joys and sorrow.
Correct.
It makes some things profound or sacred to you and other things trivial or vile. If you're a religious person, affect helps you feel connected to God. We talked about that. If you're a spiritual person, but not necessarily religious, affect becomes the transcendent feeling of being part of something larger than yourself. If you're a skeptic, affect is what drives your certainty that others are wrong. And then you can get into things like different cultures will respond to different effects differently, which only reinforces what we said earlier. So beautiful thing. You can look it up. Again, it's in psychology. Helps you understand sometimes people's, maybe not necessarily just their behavior, but some of the reasons what it is. So you got a person who drinks coffee every morning, and the day they don't drink the coffee, they cuss you out. That may be based on effect, right? That may be based on the fact that caffeine levels that your body is accustomed to are too low, and so you have a negative effect to that. Hungry, right? Sometimes people are tired, and the cause of it is they just didn't get enough sleep. But your brain may interpret that tiredness as a lack of food. That effect is you'll go and try to get something to eat. Even though you may not even be hungry, it's just that your body is tired, low glucose, fructose levels, and so it's trying to adjust to that. So sometimes people are tired, they begin to eat a lot. So these are just things that effect may come through and play a part. The basis of what they say is that emotions are external, affect is internal. So you'll get angry, like you walk in and you hit a fence by your leg, you get angry. That was an external effect to that. But you may be angry also because you haven't had any chocolate in a while. So, that's the two differences in them.
I just thought it was very interesting about affect. And how that leads to intuition, how they are related, and how that can lead into some of our beliefs, belief in God and things like that, or whatnot. And leading out from affect, we have we'll also ending this particular chapter in the source material, and these are the most important aspects. And yeah, I'm sorry, y'all, but I had a time last night, boy. I went to a Caribbean party and I can't keep it together. I can't. But acculturation, which was another point. First of all, Brass or Kent, did y'all have something y'all wanted to add as far as the affect part? Anything that stood out in the source material that you thought was pertinent for the
I thought
audience?
it, I thought it was interesting how they still scientists. I guess I don't really find the consensus of scientists always interesting. I
Mm,
find interesting the things that still baffle them to this day. You know,
mm,
the mix of how they were saying that the brains they're still confused as to how the brain's body budgeting activities, which are physical, become transformed into affect, which is mental. So it's like
right, right.
it's like, huh? What'd you say?
I was saying right. I was agreeing with you. Sorry.
Oh yeah. No. That's like it's. I think it's crazy how you do that. When you look at great athletes, um, even after the Super Bowl last week, some guys are crying, some guys are celebrating, some guys are getting prepared for next year, some guys are complaining, but they're all
Hmm.
athletes on the same team. So it's like, you know,
Hmm.
when sometimes when you lose, I always use this analogy too. My son, I always tell him, you never lose, you learn. So in a
Hmm.
situation like that, right, where you know, or the how some bodybuilders understand that the pain they're feeling is their muscles breaking down so that they can grow back bigger, essentially. But other guys, they feel pain and they stop. So you know, understanding those kinds of things and those correlations, I'd be very interested if they could figure out a way to do that, because that would be good for you know, that would be good for a lot of people, just the everyday person. Do you understand what that pain is? Should you push through? You know, should you, you know, with black men, sadly, with black men, you know, and especially older black men, the thing about not going to the doctor, you know, what is a pain? What is that? So when you go to these things about how you feel versus how you feel, really, you know, I think that's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mind hack, man. Like, it's what really drives a lot of us. Just feeling like you're doing something for the greater whole,
Hmm.
for something bigger than you. You know what I mean? We doing this for the group, for the greater of the group. Pseudo killers, for instance. You know what I'm saying? Your family. You know, you out there grinding. You know, you don't mind grinding. You don't mind going out there and getting and working long hours because you're you're making your family more successful, you know, or your team. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the key things that keeps us going in life.
Great point. Um, and last but not least, a very important concept discussed in the source material that I think everybody can relate to is acculturation. And of course, acculturation is simply, I mean, I have a longer definition, but simply your mind, your individual, particular, special kind of mind has to acclimate to new culture, and this is acculturation. So what do I mean by that? Several examples. One that speaks out to me in particular: when someone goes to prison, when they go in, they have to acculturate. When they come out, because it's years later, and people who've may have been in prison 10, 30, 50 years, there's inventions that didn't exist when they went in, that exists when they came out, that they didn't have access to. That's an example of acculturation. Another part is the military, a very important one. Again, when people go into the military, they have to acculturate, because that's military life is different than civilian life. And if anybody has family members who are part of the military that they're close to, then they know that firsthand. Even my uncle coming from wars, and I spoke about this, how he had to acculturate to normal civilian life, and not being out there in the jungle sleeping like with one eye open, kind of, or being ready to attack, to kill at any given moment, right? So those are types of acculturation. Your kid going to a new school, acculturation. You moving from the projects to the suburbs, acculturation. I mean, that's pretty much it. And that's because, you know, when you're in those one particular environment that you're used to, your mind is shaped towards that, right? And when you get into another particular distinct environment, your mind is not shaped for that. So now your mind has to adjust to that different culture, environment, or whatnot. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
A great quote is Baldwin. To be a black man and conscious is to be in a constant state of rage at all times.
I love
and I think it's like, you know, for 10 years of my life, probably from the time I graduated to my 30s, early 30s, I literally, my schedule was 6 a.m. 6 a.m. to, let's say, 4, working at my father's business, and then 6 to 12, working on my own business, and then from 1 to 4, working at the radio station, and just sleeping wherever I could. And the thing I understand about acculturation was I literally had to be 3 different people. I had to be another person at the radio station, a different person at my father's business, a different person at my own business. And then the one that ends up lacking is whatever you are to your lady and your children. And a lot of times I know in relationships, and I hate to always bring up relationships, but I think that's healthy for people to hear too, is a lot of times you don't leave work at home. You know, you go home. There's another conversation between Baldwin and another lady. Oh man, I don't even want to disrespect her. I'll get her name when I can.
Not Nikki Giovanni.
Possibly, where they were sitting across from each other.
That's
right. They were sitting across from each other, and she was telling them, like, you fake it for your boss, but why can't you come home and fake it for me?
Yeah, that was sharp, right?
I cried when I saw that.
Yeah. She's like, I want that same you, right?
Right.
You don't want the hurt and the pain and all that. She wants that same you that you give to everybody else. That's, you know, the best of you. You know, I want the best of you. You lie to everybody. Yeah. Oh man, that was
that conversation. But if anybody have a chance, just watch that whole conversation. Beautiful. It's a timeless conversation. That's the beauty of Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni.
Yeah,
the things really that they said then are timeless. They have no end. They'll be just as relevant 200 years from now.
Correct.
So my point is that when you go to work and you're sitting there and you might want to flip out, but you don't because you're at work and this, that, and the other. But then you go home and then you flip out on everybody because of what happened at work. You know, I think this is just I think it's just very important to pay attention to that. How police can't turn it off. The rates of domestic violence for police. You know what I mean? Just so it's just interesting when you pay attention to it. And that's why I say these conversations, I know we're about to come to an end, but these conversations that we're having are so important because of the use of your everyday life. In your everyday life, how can you take these things and apply them to your life and what you pay attention to? So that's my piece on that.
Yeah. One more thing I want to add before we move on. So acculturation also tends to add to the, take away from your body budget. I think it's something that we need to speak on. You know, when you're placed in different environments and whatnot, you have changes, how that can be depleting to your body budget. I just want to make that connection. So you have to go ahead, somebody.
Yeah. So you know, this is a good part of this conversation. You change who you are depending on who you're around, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing, because you wouldn't be to the people that you work with, you wouldn't be the same person that you are when you're around your homeboys, right? Because you're loose around your homeboys, you might say certain things that might in other settings be offensive. Same way you might, do things in a professional setting that you might not do in a, in the park, playing at the basketball court or whatnot. And so, but I think those you have to. it's a necessity to be different in those situations to have those types of relationships, because that nurtures those types of relationships.
Right.
When you're around your professional people, being professional around them and doing the right things around them, that nurtures that part of your relation, that part of your life. You know, same as with your children or with your homeboys. You don't want to be super uptight around your homeboy because they're gonna be like, man, get going with that corny shit. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? So it's like, you know, your brain knows how to maneuver in those different types of situations, and you can still be a successful person, you know. But go ahead, you know, it's just something I just was thinking about.
Nah, go off, fam. You good.
It's needed though. Like you have to be able
to making excellent points.
You can't be the same person in every single environment. That would be detrimental to your survival.
Okay.
Right? Would you agree, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that I hear people complain about a lot, but everyone's going to have different relationships with each other, right? And we can't have the expectation that how I treat one person, I'm going to necessarily treat every person. So I may share some of my personal story or some things with some people. Right? That's just the way it is, right? Depending on the relationship.
You gotta read them first.
Right.
General Chilawambe.
Right. So, you know, I got you know, homies from back in the day.
Inside joke, no.
That I don't necessarily build with some of the individuals I've met after. You see what I'm saying? Later on in life. Like, we got different gradients. I can hold different conversations. But I want to make sure we understand that I've seen a question about, you know, is this tied to evolution? Everything is tied to evolution. You know what I'm saying? Life itself is based in evolution. So in different environments, we make adaptations, and those who cannot tend not to pass on those who could not, let me say it that way, would not have been able to pass on their genes as readily. There was a experiment done that touches on this need we have as human beings, about where she went to like a dentist's office and they would ring a bell, and then the basis of the study is one individual came in who was not part of the study. Everybody that's currently in there is a part of the study. When she first gets in there, a bell rings, everybody stands but her. By the end of when people started to leave that study,
study was funny.
Yeah, right. New people came in. He continued to stand, and then they started to stand. By the end of the study, every person who started out good in the study, part of the study, was gone, and every person who came later was still standing when the bell rung. So we adapt quickly, and we're social animals, and because we're social animals, this is what develops out of it. We go to a new culture. We quickly try to adjust to that culture, and if we don't, then our body budget begins to be affected by it, because we're social creatures.
Say like somebody who might have been a good dude on the outside, right, in the outside world, might go to prison, right? And he might go to prison and still be, you know, genuinely, you know, at heart a good guy, right? He don't want to mess with nobody, he don't want to steal nobody, so he don't want to fight nobody, he don't want to join no gangs and nothing like that. But the prison culture might turn that person into, it might force them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, right? To where you look at them 5-10 years down the road, they're a totally different person because they had to adapt to their environment in order to survive in that environment. You know, whether that meant, you know, fighting as soon as they saw you know, whatever that might have, you know, choices that might have brought forth.
But that's
He could have went in straight, came out gay. But listen to what I'm saying.
I'm done.
No, they did a Stanford prison experiment. They had to shut it
a whole
down
other
because of
route
that
than I
thing.
was trying to go there, buddy.
I mean, I just had to throw that out there, you know.
Oh God.
Yeah. So this Stanford prison, prime example. You know, they had to shut it down. People started wilding out. Like they went, you know, the environment. People are adaptable. You know.
I always tend to quote these books, Lord of the Flies, Animal Farm, stuff like that. And you see situations where, and especially in group dynamics, I'll even talk about even in our own Discord. I think people should definitely take a gander at the link if it gets offered to you and you participate in the Discord, not just sit and watch, but even sit and watching is sometimes fun because the group dynamics is such a social experiment that you get to see just people from so many different areas, different walks of life, different levels of expertise, you know, different strengths and other things, how we all still try to mesh together. And I find it, you know, very interesting. You know, I coach a basketball team and I tell them all, even with star players on teams, right? So let's just take the Eagles, the greatest football team in the history of the world. I'm pretty sure they treat all the players fairly, but not all the same. Because you can't treat a guy that you're paying $50 million a year the same as you treat a guy that might not even make the team at the end of training camp. So, you know, just right. that level of acculturation, like that's a skill. I'll treat everybody fairly, but not the same. So you cannot be in a situation where, you know, like Kent was talking about, even with jail, that's always my issue with jail or the justice system. I think jail creates more criminals than it helps. You know, I think in a situation you get there and you lock people in isolation, what they've shown is detrimental to your brain, your body budget. It causes mental health issues, and then you just unleash them into society. Or you put a situation where a guy that maybe wasn't that violent, but now you got to be violent to survive,
right?
And it's hard to turn that off.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you even? I think Sakina was talking about PTSD.
Oh, military, you know? Yeah, definitely.
Right. You ever seen those movies about Vietnam? Vietnam is one of the scariest wars ever. I think. I mean, you're in the middle of a pitch black forest. There's people crawling under you, people crawling over you. You don't know where you're going. Everything is moved around in pitch black, and then all of a sudden, people just show up out of nowhere with a bright light, and they just go attack. And then you're supposed to go home, hug your wife, and sleep at night in the middle of Kansas somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's the beauty of the mind. It's the dangerous things of the mind. But you know, the brain is what we have. It's predicting. It's trying to help us. And those are the cards that you get dealt.
Yeah, that adaptation is a gift and a curse.
Yep.
It can have you survive in certain situations, but if depending on how quickly you can adapt, can determine the rate of your survival in any particular situation.
Yeah.
You know, especially dealing with PTSD. You know what I mean? You get around some police officers that's not really trained for that type of disease or whatever, and you know, it could just end bad.
Yeah, you made a good point earlier. I know we're trying to end, but I actually wanted to say something on this point. When you were talking about when we were children, how they just tried to beat it out of us.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I love about this generation, I never know exactly what generation it is. It's either X or Z, because I'm in one of them. But I know, like, the way that in mental health, especially in the children, is being embraced now. It's being recognized now. It's not just you're just bad. Remember when you was a kid, you're just bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you know, I literally cry for sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, all the children that were dyslexic back in the day that were just called stupid. All the kids that had ADD and they were telling them he just can't sit still. There's something wrong with him.
What about
in actuality? Go ahead.
The teachers that was calling them like, yeah,
exactly, exactly, right.
So the other like just but the teachers,
man, just terrible. And that's why, like, even when Juju brings up like the ACEs test and how these things are so important, how they're actually trying to figure it out before you judge somebody, before you just say, oh, this person can't read. Maybe they're dyslexic. Let's figure out what's going on there before we just automatically just throw them away. You know what I mean? Like, how many kids, y'all all know kids in high school and middle school that you went to school with that were certifiably crazy, but they were just called bad. They just lumped everybody into this one thing called bad. And that's why the brain, these shows are so important. Even the categorization of different mental issues and different things going on. That stuff is important. Yeah. Because everybody's not the same. I can't imagine someone telling me to read in front of a class but nobody knows what dyslexia is yet.
Right.
Oh, and these words are jumbled. They're going crazy. I'm very intelligent. It's just that's my thing. So I think it's good.
What let me know that the school system was flawed and really had it was missing something, because you have so many dropouts that actually became more successful than the people that actually went to school and graduated, right? For instance, people that made it through their art and they became successful entrepreneurs and got 50 Cent, dropped out of high school, became a musician and got these movies and these TV shows out.
I want us to be careful when we say so many of them, because statistically that's not sound, but some people do better than what the statistics would say. You get what I'm saying?
Understood.
Because statistically a dropout having a very hard time in life, but there are a few exceptions to the rule, and I think that's where they stand. I mean, if we want to be absolutely scientific.
That's correct. Yeah,
but I get what you're saying, and yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm telling people
to drop out of school too. Yeah, clean it up, Kent.
Yeah, hey, kids, stay in school, kids.
Clean it up, Kent.
Drop out, you'll have a better chance. If you drop out,
but you would think they wouldn't have a chance in life.
Yeah.
You feel me? And so you do have those few, right, that actually go on and do things in life that you wouldn't think that they're capable of.
Right.
Because they have a stigma on them, like, oh, you didn't do the normal, you didn't go through it the normal route, so yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
Can somebody drop the email for Keenan right now? Because I have a couple announcements to give, if y'all don't mind, on dropping the Discord. I'm vouching for Keenan and Fitain and Herbert. I will say that
Fitain is good dude. I think I vouch for him too.
Absolutely. So I want to mention a few things about success, and that, so you having a college degree or whatnot, that doesn't automatically, that's not automatic to success. My sister, I can speak on it with my sister. She doesn't technically have a degree, but my sister now has a corporate position with one of the major hospitals in Boston. She was already making great money. I mean, awesome money. But she may be a couple $1,000s to hitting six figures. But she just got a $20,000 salary increase without a degree. Though she will have her degree by the end of this year for sure and going into a master's program. But I just want to let people know that. And so shout out to my sister Joanna Harding, doing a thing. And another thing, so to let you all know, sooner than later we will also speaking on children. When you're talking about children just being beaten and parents really don't understand, I will be having an expert or a professional, shall I say, who deals with soft parenting, who is has lots of traction on TikTok and Instagram. I mean, he's been featured in articles, and he teaches parents and just overall individuals who deal with children how to deal with children. We call it soft parenting, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your child. It can be any child that you are someone in a I guess you're over. I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to say dominant.
Take them courses that them people offer you at the hospital when you have your kids, man.
Exactly. So, but we're gonna be bringing him on to. I'll let you speak on that, Ken, but to offer some soft parenting techniques, skills, and also, of course, access to his sites and maybe other training courses that he has available. But he's pretty awesome. I happen to know him personally, and he's amazing. And he doesn't just talk about it, something that I actually didn't know because he doesn't brag about it, but he's also a foster parent. So I think that's a testament to his work, not just professionally but personally also. But in his capacity of work, he deals with children in such a great capacity. He's called a reporter. He'll explain it when he get here, but y'all understand. So we're going to be offering things like that to you all, things that are beneficial, things that you can take with you and you can actually apply in real life for the betterment of all of us, right? For the betterment of our children. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not an advocate of spanking or whipping or beating children in any way, shape, or form, because I understand somewhat of the generational trauma that comes from. Okay, I'm not judging no one if that's what you do, but there's also ways that you discipline your child, and it's just not with brute force. And we need to start understanding that, because a lot of things that our children go through, or a lot of the dysfunction in our communities, can be helped by that. I'm not saying that we're totally in things, but it definitely can curtail or help some things. That's what I'm saying.
I know a lot of people have to realize that those brains are still developing.
Correct.
So when you realize that in their adulthood, you're the main reason for a lot of their could be issues, it would make you change the way you deal with them on an everyday basis. Just man, you got YouTube nowadays. Like, just look up, how to talk to your kids. What are better ways of communicating with them? Not cussing them out, not yelling at them and screaming at them all the time.
Facts, Acadia. Yeah.
And just knowing that those negative things that we do could actually help develop problems in their later years.
Correct.
And I think if you're aware of that, then you have no choice but to be like, damn, I need to find out how to do this better.
Oh yeah,
we need help. Like we all had to learn at some point. There ain't nothing to feel guilty about, but yeah.
But I think some of us or some parents also are projecting their own past or childhood traumas, and that's another thing. But we are past the 2-hour mark, folks, and sometimes we don't like to go over an hour, but we had a lot of things to offer. That does actually conclude chapter 6, and we're on the final chapter 7 of the source material that we will have for you next week. Have a few announcements for you before we go. Do you want to go ahead with that, Marcus, or you want me to jump right in?
I just want to you can jump in, but let me close with the last statement that she made in the book.
Go on.
In that chapter, I think it clarifies perfectly this whole chapter and really what we're trying to reinforce. And it says no kind of mind is inherently better or worse than any other. Some variations are just more tailored to their environment. When it comes to human minds, variation is the norm. And what we call human nature is really human natures. We don't need one universal mind in order to claim that we're all one species. All we need is an exceptionally complex brain that wires itself to the physical and social surroundings. I think that's a beautiful ending to the book. To that chapter in the book.
Did you want to give the announcements?
So you can check out Big Dog Anthony Bowman, Pseudo Killer Official. He will be doing the Space Age Astronomy Club tomorrow. Check us out. It's going to be awesome. He's going to do some live feeds, I believe, of space, looking at certain planets and stars, and you know what he do. Big Dog is on it. So hopefully y'all can check us out tomorrow. Same channel.
It's 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe. 9 p.m.
I
Eastern.
think he did say 9 p.m. Eastern
Eastern
for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully y'all can all come back and just really enjoy it. Again, some things coming up. We got some scholars and experts and professionals coming in to conversate with us. It's going to be lovely. Check us out on the numerous social media platforms. Clubhouse, we do shows on Clubhouse now. TikTok, you can catch some of our shorts and things on TikTok. Facebook, as well as Instagram. And just work with us. Some people, you get an invite. This is very important to come to the Discord. You have to have an avatar. That's beyond our control to boot you out from that Discord if you don't have an avatar. So just be aware that you need an avatar. And I hope y'all enjoy today's show. And I can't wait to check y'all out tomorrow.
Hey, yo. And light as y'all take it, yo. Hey, the judges show is coming, y'all. It's coming. We got the judges together. You know what I mean? I think they've communed.
Judges show for what? I done forgot.
We're going to play this debate or this conversation between brother Chillimwe, Chillimwe, right? Chillimwe, and Logic. We're gonna replay that again. Hopefully this week we can go ahead and get this thing done. We gotta find out who won this thing, y'all. I think the people picked who I feel like I picked, right? But we gonna see.
Yeah, we did a people's choice, and we actually had a judged debate. We don't do like the whole, you pick, because that can be a little bit disingenuous at times. But yeah, that's how we was doing it. And Brass, you have any final words?
No, good show. Speaking on the Anthony Bowman thing, if you go outside your house right now without a telescope, you'll be able to see, if you could discern it, use your cell phone to see what it looks like, but you can see Jupiter, the moon, and Orion fairly close to each other right now. So that's kind of like telescoping without telescoping. And
some things you can see without a telescope though, so that's the fun part. Just grab those apps that'll help you.
And the judges show coming soon, probably 2025. We're gonna get that done. We're gonna get that out to you, and make sure y'all know who won the high level conversation around 2025, maybe early 2026.
You're funny.
That's it for that. That's it. That's it for me. But yeah, good show once again. Always fun.
It's gonna come out when that Grand Theft Auto 6 come out, man.
Yeah, it's gonna come out the day. It's gonna come out the day after. I actually am excited about that game, believe it or not. So.
Me too. I'm back to playing Grand Theft Auto 5, yo.
I did. I ain't gonna lie. I did turn it on right when the energy was strong, and I got bored again and just moved forward.
Nah, you gotta get you some businesses on there, Brad. You a businessman. You supposed to be.
Wait. In real life, I ain't got time to be building no better. I mind the business that pays me.
Nah, you actually can make. We'll have that conversation off the record.
Okay, we can. We definitely can.
Well, if nothing else, folks, remember to subscribe to Pseudo Killers. Please like the show. Please share the show. And with that said, we will see y'all next week. Good night.
Peace in a bottle of hair grease.